Hello, everyone, and welcome to Burn the Ship, the podcast that helps entrepreneurs go all in on their business, and we introduce them to professionals that can help them to do so. Today, we have a very special guest. Adam, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, of course. Introduce yourself and the name of your business.
Yeah, my name's Adam Slack, and I'm the CEO and founder of Two Roads, a cloud-based accounting company.
Awesome, man. We definitely appreciate you coming on today, and we understand that time is one of our most valuable resources. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, sure. Um, I guess I'll start kind of out of college, went into the family business, and we were in the book industry, so it shows my age a little bit.
Okay.
We fought the good fight, but at the end of the day, Amazon won. We lost, and so around 2008, well, we all have a two, well, not all of us, but those my age have a 2008 story, and
Mm-hmm.
so 2008 was kind of where it put the death nail in the business,
So
and so we
you said
decided we needed to.
books. So you guys had a bookstore. Y'all were creating books or editors.
That's
What
right.
was
Sorry,
it?
bookstore,
Bookstore.
retail,
Okay.
wholesale.
Okay.
We did these little pop-up events where you go into towns and pop up for 90 days and have a bookstore and then leave. So
Okay.
it was all in that kind of vein. So
Mm,
we kind of thought we were diversified because we had multiple companies, but the problem is they were all in the same industry and that
mm,
industry was just eroding. So
mm-hmm.
it was a great 10 years. Like I can't, I'd go back and work with my dad and my brother again tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
if I could. But yeah, like I said, '08 was just kind of snuck up on us and kind of put the nail in the coffin. So we spent a couple of years winding that one down. And then in 2011, decided that I was going to go out on my own, start my own business. My brother decided to do the same thing and, just try to figure out what I was going to do. I didn't have a clue and just got a lot of counsel. And the counsel I kept coming back to is people said, "Do you like what you do?" And I was like, "Yeah, I love what I do." And what I had done was I had built kind of financial systems for our businesses. So like I had moved into being kind of the CFO for our family business and had built these different processes to serve all of our companies, that were kind of all over the place. Um, and people said, "Well, why don't you do that?" And so here was my grand idea, Roderick. It was, I wonder if I could go get like five companies to pay me like $2,000 a month to manage their financial systems, like be their kind of fractional CFO.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I did it. I was like, all right, let's launch. And so my wife and I, decided to go out on our own. We actually launched on April 1st, 2011. It
Okay.
wasn't a joke.
Yeah, I see
It was
that.
legit. We were going to do it.
Good April Fool's
Um,
there.
that's right, exactly. I had four kids under five at the
Oh,
time.
goodness
It
me.
was like it was not the ideal time to start a business.
Mm-hmm.
And I get into this thing and 60 days in, realize I can't sell this product. There
Oh.
wasn't even enough. Like I would go sit down with a small business owner and they would start explaining to me the mess their books were in or the fact that they're 6 months behind. And so like I'm sitting there thinking, how am I going to give you any CFO advisory services if you can't even provide me a financial statement, because I'm not going after like a mid-sized business. These are smaller businesses that I was kind of targeting that I kind of had my comfort zone in. And so we pivoted. Like 60 days, we were like, okay, we're not going to sell this product anymore. We got to sell bookkeeping.
Okay.
And I love telling this story. It's my very first client I sold. Um, I'm sitting across from him, and he's looking at his computer screen, and we're talking about bookkeeping because I kind of teed it up that we were going to talk about helping him with his books, not do his CFO stuff. And he's pointing to QuickBooks and showing me all these problems that he's got, and he's like, "So can you tell me how to fix this?" And I looked at him, and I looked at the screen, and I looked back at him, and I was like, "Man, I actually don't know how to fix that." But I've got people that I do because I had two employees at the time that were still serving my brother and my dad. And so he kind of looked at me funny and said, "Okay." He gives me the copy of the QuickBooks backup drive. I drive up the street to my office and I put it on uh, one of my staff's desks, who she's still with me today. Her name is April. And I said, so two things. One, it turns out people like QuickBooks. We were in a completely different product. I said, so I'm going to need you to go up to Office Depot and get a copy of QuickBooks and bring it back down here. And then second, I need you to load this file up and see if you can figure out what's wrong with it. And
Okay.
she just looks at me and goes, Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes up the street, she grabs a copy of QuickBooks. Back then it was on the desktop version. She installs it. She also bought a copy of QuickBooks for Dummies just to
Okay.
make sure we had, a
Mm-hmm.
resource guide there to be able to
Yes.
figure it out.
Makes sense.
And we were kind of off. We didn't name the business when we started because I thought I was just trying to get a couple of clients to do CFO work. And, once we started selling bookkeeping and realizing there was a market for that, um, we decided, well, I guess we should name this thing. I guess we
Mm-hmm.
should actually put a name on the business. So I did it all backwards that
Okay.
first year. Like
I
I
got
didn't
you.
do anything any kind there was nothing linear about the birth of Two Roads.
Mm-hmm.
So we have this party. This is probably 6 months into starting. We've got this party. My wife cooks this amazing meal. We have 6 or 8 friends over. Um, the wine's flowing, and we're just getting creative on what we're going to name this baby that we had birthed 6 months prior. And it just kept on coming back to, business owners take a road less traveled. Like they don't take the easy path. They're blazing new trails. They're creating things out of nothing. And so that Robert Frost poem is kind of where that was born, where Two Roads was born out of. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's how we named it. And that's kind of been our desire ever since, was just to get, to help those small business owners that are blazing those trails. And that was in 2011. We picked up steam, I would say, the first 4 years. What do they say? 80% of businesses fail in the first 5 years.
Mm-hmm. The first five,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean, you feel it, man. Like
Mm-hmm.
those first 5 years, like I tell people, you've got to have some sort of like irrational belief of what you can achieve. And if you can't get your head in that space, like it's difficult to survive because you're reinvesting every dollar back into the business. You're constantly being told no. You're figuring out what people are more likely to say yes to. Um, and it wore on me, man. So we actually sold the business.
Okay.
I sold the business in 2015, and it was actually a client that came to me, and we were chatting one day, and I was kind of telling him about our business and what we were dealing with. And I had a partner at the time, and he said something like, well, if you're ever looking for a challenge, let me know. And I got home and I told my wife the story, and she goes, I think he was offering you a job. And I was like, nah, he wasn't offering me a job, we were just chatting. And she
Mm-hmm.
goes, no, I think he was. And so I texted him, and he was like, "Yeah, if you'd like an opportunity, let's chat." And you know, it was a for a guy like me, growing up in small business, family business, then starting my own thing. This job was flying around in a private plane. It was a different caliber. And so I'm thinking, like, I think I've got to try it. Like, I
Okay.
think I gotta just see what this is like. Um, so I said yes. The private plane was wonderful. Can't recommend that enough. But the job just killed me. So 6 months into it, I was like, I don't think I'm going to make it. Like, I don't think this is going to be long term for me.
What was it? It
Um,
was it was the travel away from the kids. What was it that was hindering it?
you know, it was a handful of things. Definitely that. Definitely the travel away from the kids. I'm a family man. My family's important to me. But it was also, you know, I was in a family business when we started, but I had a lot of freedom and creativity to create. And so while I wasn't an owner in the early days, it felt like an owner.
Mm-hmm.
And then I became an owner with my dad, in the latter half of me working for him. And obviously I was an owner when I started Two Roads. And when you've had the ability to have that freedom to create, and then you have it taken away,
Mm-hmm.
it's a stark contrast. And so their business was wonderful. I'm not knocking their business at all, but I had a role to play. And in that role, this was what my job was. And, it was repetitive. And, I wanted to break things and try to figure out how we could do something better. How could we get to innovate? A business that size, they're not really looking to innovate at that pace. Two Roads today isn't looking to innovate as much as we were, 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We're a larger business now. If I press a button, it's going to affect a few hundred people. So
Yes.
I got to think about that.
That's
That's not how
right.
many employees we have. I'm just thinking clients,
Mm-hmm.
employees, and all that
Yeah,
sort of thing.
everybody.
Um, so I kind of realized I wasn't going to make it long term there. I stayed 18 months, and by the grace of God, I was able to buy Two Roads back. So it was
Okay.
kind of a crazy story.
Is this from that
Um,
same person that had you on a private jet?
No, 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 no,
It was
no.
a
It was, I
separate
had a
person.
partner at the time. I
Okay.
sold to my partner.
Right.
And then when I got back, when I left that firm and was looking for something to do,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess I could tell this story. I don't know how much time I've got here.
No,
Do you want me to
take your time.
just,
Yeah, yeah. Let's hear it.
all right. So this is kind of a crazy story. It might kind of wig you out a little bit, but just brace yourself for it. So my partner and I, who we had kind of gotten a little bit, not sideways, but when I sold him the business and went and worked for this, flashy company, it just put a strain on our relationship. We had friends before, and we're still friends to this day. We're playing golf Friday, so we're still close. But during that season, it had kind of put a strain on our relationship. Well, when I told my boss at the firm that I was with that I was leaving, I gave him a 90-day notice because I thought I'm going to see if I can find a replacement. I want to do these guys solid. They gave me this great job. I
Mm-hmm.
want to try to take care of them. I also, selfishly wanted 90 days to kind of figure out what I was going to do next because I had nothing lined up, man. I was just like, I got to get out. I got to figure something else out.
Mm-hmm.
2 days before my last day, I have got a little bit of income coming through. I had convinced a couple people to pay me to be their kind of fractional CFO because I'd been known in the network, but in the town by that point, and so people kind of knew, and I picked up enough to be able to put food on the table. Not a ton, but enough to put food on the table.
Mm-hmm.
But 2 days before my last day on the job, I'm having a beer with my partner, and he just looked stressed, and I could sense it in him, and it felt like the first time that we were having a good friend conversation, since we had split up, and um, I don't know, just fell for him. So the next morning, I'm sitting there drinking my cup of coffee, and I felt impressed. Hey, call him, see if he wants to sell the business. And in my worldview, I would say that was kind of a voice from the Lord. You can call it whatever you want to call it, Roderick. That's
Mm-hmm.
just in my worldview. That's what I'd call it.
Yeah.
Next morning, and when I felt that, I was like, no way, I'm calling him to buy the business. Man, our relationship was strained. That would just feels like it would put a death nail in it.
Mm-hmm.
Next morning, Saturday morning, I wake up, same thing. Call him and see if he wants to sell the business. Sunday, same thing. Call him, see if he wants to sell the business. And each time I'm like, no, man, I'm not doing that. This wasn't an audible conversation. This is just like an impression.
Yes. Yes.
Monday morning, same thing. Call him and see if he wants to sell the business. And so finally, I'm like, if I have to wake up every morning and feel this, I might as
Right.
well just do it.
Yeah.
Like I'm going
Submit
to
to
call him
it.
and see if he wants
Yeah.
to sell the business.
All right.
So around 9:30, I get up the courage to call him. And I'm like, all right, hey, man, this is coming out of left field. Um, just want to let you know, if you ever want to sell the business, I'd love to have a first right of refusal. And he said, okay, well, I think somebody's trying to tell me something. I'll call you back. Click. That's it.
Okay.
He texts me that afternoon and says, hey, can you do dinner this week? I was like, yeah, let's do Wednesday. We go to dinner. By the time dinner's over, we've got a deal done.
Okay.
Takes about 30 days for the lawyers to do their thing, paper it up.
Mm-hmm.
So we're sitting there at the closing table 30 days later, and he goes, I got to tell you a story. We've actually closed I've bought the business back. And
Mm-hmm.
he says, I got to tell you a story. And I'm like, buddy, you're supposed to tell me that before we sign the papers. Like, what are you going to do here, man? Like, how are you going to surprise me?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, no, no, no. He said, a little while back, I came in from taking the kids to school, and his wife was there, and she was on the couch when he walked back in the door from taking them to school. And he said she looks up at him as he walks in and says, I want you to sell two roads. And he goes, what do you mean? And she goes, I just think we need to be done with it. Like, it's putting too much strain on our relationship. I want you to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
He says they went for about an hour fighting about this. I'm not going to sell it. She said I want him to sell it. He says, finally, he goes, honey, if somebody calls me and asks to buy it, I'll sell it. But that's the only way that's going to happen.
Mm.
And the phone rang right then.
No
And
way.
it was me calling him, telling him that I'd love the opportunity to buy the business back.
Oh man, timing is everything, Adam.
I mean, you talk about timing, man.
Yeah.
You
That's
that feels to
crazy.
me a little bit crazy. And so he kind of
Yeah.
felt like,
It's
that's what I got to
divine.
do. And
Yeah.
so I bought it back. We kind of, in that 5 to 6 year period, have you ever heard of a book called The Dip?
No,
Man,
not the
check it
dip.
out. It's by Seth Godin.
Okay.
He kind of talks about the evolution of a business is, beginning, you're doing all things for everybody and
Mm-hmm.
you're just on the rise. Like your business is just up and to the right, right? And you're trying to do everything. And then you get to this point where you're like, I can't do everything for everybody. Like this just not sustainable. You can't scale that way.
Mm-hmm.
You actually start to pull back on some things that you used to say yes to, and you go through this dip. And then you refine the things that you can really be best at.
Mm-hmm.
And once you figure that out, then it starts to take off. And if you looked at Two Roads revenue for the last 15 years, man, we are like classic Seth Godin, the dip material. Like we would just overlay over his book. So we
Hmm.
first 5 years tried to do everything, went through kind of this refining period, and then all of a sudden, bam, it just launched. And so, now we've added CFO services, we've added tax services, we've added controller services. Our core is still bookkeeping. We're serving businesses from Maine to Florida to Texas, all over the place, all using the cloud. Our team's fully remote,
Hmm.
so we were fully remote before COVID, before it was, cool to be remote, which it gave us a little bit of advantage from a hiring perspective. We think that's starting to come back now too, since people are pushing folks back to the office. Um, but yeah, it's just been a wild ride, man. It's been great. We love what we do. We love the clients we serve, and um, yeah, it's just been a lot of fun.
That is awesome. I usually ask the question, what event happened that made you burn the ship and go all in for yourself? It seems like it was a divine type thing, to be honest with you. As a person who understands there is a higher power that is out there, spoke to both of you guys, and that gave you the time to call them because it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Man, let me get the gumption to actually do this. I don't want to lose a friend, but I think I need to do it. And it was perfect timing. So it seems like it was a divine thing that happened that made you get back to Two Roads.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't say it any other way. And I think, um, I can answer that question though also for sure that second time around.
Mm-hmm.
The first time around, I think my great grandfather started a business. My grandfather started a business. My father started a business. It's all I knew. And so when 2008 happened,
Mm-hmm.
like for me, burning the ships was the only option. Like it was like, we gotta, I've got to protect my parents. I don't want to be a leech on them as these businesses were going down. We've got to do something else. And so it was the only option I had in my mind.
Right.
But yeah, I agree. Divine intervention for the second one for sure. I do feel like I'm supposed to be here for
Yes.
whatever that's worth.
Oh, no, no, I get it. I say it all the time. Timing is everything. And those things that speak to us aren't just always our subconscious. It is, it's something else that made this. Because, like I said, I look at the world in itself and I say, man, we are amazing people, and it's just challenging to believe we did all of it by ourselves. So I
I
so
know.
so I'm on the same page with you now. All right, so we jump back into Two Roads. We help our friend out, from the strain of what he was going through at that particular time, and I want you to share with the entrepreneurs that are watching today about those core services that you're providing. I know it's a few of them, but I want you to tell us a little bit about what that ideal client looks like. Paint a nice picture for us so we can know exactly what you're doing over there at Two Roads.
Yeah, I think we've had clients that scaled up to like $100 million a year in revenue. So we can take on some big ones, but I'd say our core right in the middle is that, 10-person firm, 1 to 10-person firm, trade, professional services, small business, retail, restaurant. It's doing, $1 to $3 million a year and just tired of dealing with the accounting. There's a lot of technology that we apply to this. So, we're human plus, it's not just technology. It's a team of people as well. Um, but those smaller businesses that are looking to do more fractional type outsourcing type work is who our core audience is. Yeah.
Okay. Now, we have a pretty good idea of what that ideal person looks like. Another thing that I always ask, because I have grown our business through referrals and referral networking and things like that, who would you say has been a good referral partner for you that has sent you over opportunities? So not only can we find that end user for you, but a person who could send you opportunities. What does that person look like?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'd say our best have been like business coaches or groups like uh, EOS coaches that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
EOS is traction, so
Mm-hmm.
folks that are kind of coming into a business and seeing kind of tinkering with it, maybe breaking it down, trying to see where the issues are.
Mm-hmm.
They typically have a view of how our cloud accounting and when I say cloud accounting, I mean like bookkeeping. Like we're paying your bills, we're paying your employees. Like it's bookkeeping done for you without you having to think about it. You get your financial statement on time at the end of the month. So those folks that are kind of going in and looking at businesses from 30,000 foot typically go, okay, you're either spending too much because you're doing it the old-fashioned way where you've got a full-time bookkeeper on staff, or your spouse is doing it and it's a mess and you're 6 months behind.
Hmm.
And so typically they see that and they go, there's a better way. I had a friend, sorry, I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here, Roderick, but I had a friend who told me he was selling cloud IT services.
Hmm.
And he said, man, it was so hard to sell this business until one day Microsoft did a Super Bowl commercial.
Hmm.
He said, after that, the cloud became a normal nomenclature and people understood it.
Hmm.
Well, we haven't had that Super Bowl commercial yet. So we still are having to explain to people like 99 out of 100 potential customers that come to us were novel to them.
Hmm.
Like, wait, hold on just a minute. I don't have to have somebody at my office. I don't have to have my CPA do it. Like, I can have 8 to 5 support 5 days a week, like I've got a bookkeeper for a fraction of the cost. And
Hmm.
we're like, yep.
Hmm.
And they're like, yeah, that sounds like a layup.
Right.
So I mean,
Absolutely.
once we get done explaining, it's not as hard of a sale,
Hmm.
but we still have to explain to people who we are and what we are. So that's kind of our biggest challenge today. But yeah, I'd say coaches, EOS type folks, CPAs even have sent folks our way who don't do the bookkeeping, want to just have it outsourced, but they want to have good books when they're doing the tax returns. So
Hmm.
those are folks we work with a lot.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that. And as we stay in the business realm, I can tell you've had a lot of experience when it comes to getting through challenges and finding solutions. If it is from your grandfather, great grandfather, grandfather, father, brother, yourself, have seen all types of business scenarios. So I want to see if you can share with me and the audience some of those best practices or those business skills that you have acquired and nurtured over time that has helped Two Roads to be successful, that maybe can help some of the entrepreneurs that are watching today add to their bag.
Yeah, might sound funny coming from somebody who owns an accounting firm, um, or a bookkeeping firm. Um, but I'd say it's move fast and break things.
Okay.
So like,
Okay.
I think and this is probably something that you'll see if you're looking at any kind of reels or, Gary V or something, but it's just like it's been so true for us. Like when you think about me launching as a fractional CFO in April 1st of 2011, and by June 1st we had pivoted to become a bookkeeping company. Like you just have got to move. I see too often young people or people that want to be entrepreneurs want to like articulate a business plan or a program or a structure and they want to have it perfect. And I'm like,
Hmm.
man, it's not perfect the minute you hit print. Like as soon as you think you're done with it, it's broken and you don't even know where it's broken yet. So
Hmm.
should you have those tools? Absolutely. But I think if I look back, um, I'd say two things. One, an incredibly supportive wife who's just been amazing along the way, and the ability to pivot really quickly,
Hmm.
I think are the two things that I consider the reason that we're here today. And the thing that I coach young people on, or either other entrepreneurs on, is just pivot quick, try what you think you need to try, find out what works, find out what doesn't work, and move on.
Hmm.
You
Okay.
know?
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because a lot of times people get stuck in a rut. They say, hey, look, this is the way that it's going to be. I know that it is snowing outside and is 15 feet of snow. I don't need snow tires. I've never had snow tires before. Why would I put some chains on there or whatever? And that hinders them because their cup is already too full. So I definitely appreciate you sharing that. That is very important that you have to pivot. That's a part of what we had to do during COVID time too. So that's a great example. Now we've talked a lot about your journey. We talked about your business. We talked about the skills, but we do want people to understand Adam is still a human being. So let's just say that Two Roads is coming along great. Time, money is not an issue at all. What is it that Adam would do with his time?
It's an easy one for me. We love to travel. So I think, my kids now I've got one in college, another one about to go to college, two high schoolers. So giving them an opportunity to unlock their world
Mm-hmm.
is what my wife and I love to do. And so, whether it's heading over to Europe or driving across the country.
Hmm.
It could be any kind of travel that we can expose them to, um, just not the world they live in on a daily basis. I think is the thing we love to do. So
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Do you guys have a next destination on the board of where you guys are going? Have you guys thought about that just yet?
we do. We're actually heading to Ireland here in a few weeks.
Nice, nice.
So yeah,
You
gonna
have
drive the Emerald Isle.
you have roots there, or that's just like
No,
potatoes, or what's the deal
just
there?
next up on the docket to
I,
try to
I,
figure out.
I got
So,
you. I got you.
we kind of hunt for reasonable flights and we kind of we'll grab a car and just kind of explore,
Hmm.
so it's not glitz and glamour, but
Hmm.
it's just a fun time to just be with family and explore a new area.
Yeah, like I said, the experience is what it's about. I say that all the time. Regardless of what you're going through or going to do, the experience of it is what it's really about. You always can take something good from whatever it is.
That's right. I tell the kids I'll start every trip this way. And this is if I think the byproduct of getting to see these amazing places is wonderful.
Hmm.
But I agree with what you just said. That's the main reason. And I'll tell the kids before we go on a trip, I'll say, all right, guys, and they're older now, so they can handle this. But I told it when they were little too. I said, guess what? We have just signed up for a big obstacle, and we didn't even know where it is. And when I first started doing this, now they kind of laugh at me because I do the same thing every time. But they first say, what do you mean, Dad?
Hmm.
Well, we're about to do this thing
Hmm.
with a whole bunch of unknowns, and we're going to bump into something that's going to make us uncomfortable. It's going to be frustrating. It's going to be stressful. We're going to be angry, and we're going to have to figure out how to overcome that. And we have to figure out how to overcome that. And we get the choice. We get the choice to overcome that with good attitudes. We get the choice to overcome that with ingenuity. We get to see who's the most creative out of our group. And so I kind of create this challenge for them before we even take a step out the door for them to try to find that obstacle
Hmm.
and then figure out if they can overcome it with a positive attitude. And for me, that's life.
Yes. Yes.
That's what we have to do on a daily basis. But when you
Absolutely.
do it outside the context of your daily life,
Hmm.
they view it differently. And so it's a lot of fun to see them kind of their eyes open, and especially now that they're older because they're just young adults. They're adults now.
Hmm.
They'll be like, ah, there it is, Dad. That's the first
Right.
obstacle. I
Right.
found it.
Right.
And they'll start brainstorming on how to get around it, whether it's we can't get into the Airbnb or the car won't start or we don't know how to pump gas in a foreign land,
Hmm.
and they start to brainstorm on how to figure out how to get around it. And like that's a lot of fun to watch as a parent.
Man, that's magnificent. Now, I have kids, they're 10 and 12, and they're into sports. I'm going to take what you just said and tell them that when I wake them up in the morning to go do these crazy tournaments we have to do. Say,
That's
look,
right.
you're going to have challenges. You're going to. No, I can't. I can't wish a missed fly ball on her. But something's not going to happen, right? They're going to
Yep.
call a bad strike, or they're going to not call a holding penalty, or something like that. So you got to overcome it, and you already know it's going to be there. So you might as well go ahead and start brainstorm it. I asked for some business skills, and I asked for some of those best practices. That is what I want to highlight right there. You already know there's going to be challenges, so be ready and be prepared. So, man,
That's right.
that's a great word of wisdom. Now, talking about words of wisdom, if the people that are watching the show today want to get in contact with you about the accounting services, the CFO services, or any of those professional services that you've provided or the best practices, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
I know this is old school, but I still do email. So Adam at tworoadsco.com, or on LinkedIn. I forget what their moniker is after LinkedIn, but Adam Slack is my kind of handle there. So
Hmm.
you can get a hold of me either one of those two places, but email's always best.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Now, again, Adam, we appreciate you coming on today. We understand that for a lot of people, it's challenging to share, about their business, about their personal, peeling that onion back. So we always honor our guest by giving them the last word. So please look into the camera and tell the people something good.
Okay. Well, I've already shared it a little bit here, but I'll just say from my perspective, I'm with Roderick. There is a greater power out there.
Mhm.
And for me, it's Jesus Christ, and he has died for you, and he loves you. And there's a lot of hate in the world, and that's not him. And it's very hard to see the difference between those two things. But yeah, there's a lot of love out there if you look for it, man.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Adam. It's been a pleasure, man.
You bet. Thanks, Roderick.
And to everyone that is watching today, be kind and thanks.
Absolutely.